You encourage these folks. They have traveled all the way here to Nairobi to present their presentations. They've worked very hard on them. So be sure to show them love and encourage them when you see them. All right, are we ready? All right, let's go. First group is, which is the first group? NexX. Next.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. Sorry. I'm Jerry. This is Liz. I'm Jerry. This is Liz. And we've had the pleasure to present our project. I'm basically a freelancer, and I've been scratching my own itch using this project. Um, 60% of African youth global financial systems right now are basically a patchwork of what they're supposed to be, and they only cater to their respective regions. So we came up with a user-friendly wallet, a revolutionary Web 5 credential manager,
a market.com. The market is expected to be at 528
Next up is Igbigi.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Across several cities over the past 5 years, there have been several protests springing up. First, in October 2020, the NSAS protest in Nigeria. And come to think of it, recently in Kenya, the finance bill. And I mean, today, shout out to the ladies. They're actually protesting in Kenya. Hello, ladies. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, though. During these incidents, Bitcoin was actually used as a way to send money because of the limitations the government placed on transactions. I am Fabari Agbora, with me is Mr. Tamno Belema Achego, and we are presenting Igbigi. Igbigi is loosely translated as money from the Kalabari language in the Niger Delta region of Nigeria. And together we've built a solution on the tbDEX protocol. By the way, Africa has over 40 different currencies and different compliance frameworks. So it's quite difficult to send money across borders. But thanks to the TBD team and the protocol they've built, they've actually abstracted KYC via decentralized identifiers. And together, we've actually solved this problem using a payment application. Now, this is Igbigi. It's a mobile application. Yes, we choose a mobile application instead of a web app because, I mean, you guys use Chrome, and you know browsers these days, they love our data. They love mining it. So for better privacy, which is something TBD wants, actually we choose a mobile application instead. And we comply with various data protection regulations. Now, a quick one. I want to walk you through how we solve this problem using Igbigi. First, we handle matching offerings from different PFIs. By the way, on the tbDEX protocol, there are several participating financial institutions. So you need to understand that different users may be matched up with multiple PFIs. So we do this through user field for you as a user. And besides that, after every transaction, you have the opportunity at any point in time. We comply with GDPR regulations. So within 30 days, your personally identifiable information, PIIs, are actually deleted from our databases, and we notify other PFIs to ensure that they actually comply with this regulation. Now let's talk business, right? So our target users are actually freelancers, outsourcing companies. I mean, you right there sitting that traveled from different parts of the world to come here. This app is for you. We charge a 1.5% fee for bank transfers and also for currency swaps. And this is capped at $10. I must say this. The in-app transactions for, let's say, sending by username is free. It's free. So that's to encourage customer retention. Now, we've actually brought in some other innovations, like You can donate to different causes, fraud prevention, and using AI to detect suspicious activity. Really, fraud prevention, I mean, I'm from Nigeria. A typical account that has been flagged is actually given post-no debit. So actually you can send money to that account, but you cannot withdraw. The recipient cannot withdraw. How about we reverse it? You can actually not send money. So that's how we protect you as a user. Ladies and gentlemen, your privacy is important to us and your data is important. Use Igbigi on the tbDEX protocol. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Africa is a continent with a burgeoning middle class and growing demand for digital financial services. But the current cross-border payment landscape presents a significant challenges, which hinders economic growth and financial inclusion. That's why I create TrustExchange. TrustExchange is a decentralized wallet application that are designed to address cross-border payments in Africa, which empowers individual financial institutions and developers with faster, cheaper, and more transparent cross-border transactions. We first need to look at the two major obstacles that are affecting cross-border payments in Africa. According to a World Bank research around 2022, it said that Africa is the most expensive region for remittances, with an average cost of 8% for $200 transaction, more than double the UN target of 3%. And African 54 currency often require multiple conversion, which add hidden fees and complexity to transaction. And this kind of complexity usually costs business billions annually. TrustExchange is a decentralized wallet application and a platform powered by tbDEX protocol designed to make cross-border payments seamless, compliant, and profitable for individual financial institutions and developers. Let's look at how TrustExchange simplify money transfers for individuals. Sending money to family or friends can be costly, slow, and unpredictable. Like for example, Alice in Ghana needs urgent funds to pay for her mother's hospital bill, but her brother Bob in another country faces delays, high costs, and worries about whether the money will arrive on time. This is how TrustExchange helped Bob to simplify his money transfer. Bob discovered TrustExchange, signed up, received instant code from our partnering financial institution via our real-time filtering system. Bob selected the best option and completed the transfer. With real-time update, Bob was able to track the transaction, ensuring that Alice received the money quickly. Some of the benefits of TrustExchange: instant codes. Users receive real-time code from diverse financial providers, selecting the best option for their needs. Fast and transparency. Transactions are completed quickly and efficiently with real-time update for complete transparency. Let's look at how TrustExchange benefits financial institutions to enhance liquidity and scalability. TrustExchange helps partnering financial institutions optimize their liquidity management, attracting new customers and improving their overall performances. Financial institutions can also gain wider customer base, leading to increased profitability and a larger market share. TrustExchange transparency and efficient system empower liquidity providers to enhance their services, deliveries, and customers' experiences. TrustExchange also enable developers to integrate their application, their wallet application into their already built application. Let's say, for an instance, a hospital in a tourist-heavy region faces challenges with international bill payments. Many patients struggle with making seamless payments from abroad, leading to delayed treatment and financial strain. TrustExchange wallet application can be integrated into the hospital existing system, enable secure and efficient cross-border payment. This streamlined process allows patients to pay easily, improving their experience and the hospital financial management. Here are some reasons why TrustExchange is a platform of choice for all. TrustExchange transaction fee and revenue sharing ensure platform sustainability and incentivize adoption. Optionality. Users select from diverse financial providers based on diverse conditions using the application robust filtering system. Customers experience. Real-time transparency, fair WebSocket provide instant updates on transaction. Let's look at some untapped opportunities in Africa. Africa is one of the fastest growing remittance markets with $53 billion remittance in 2022. Intra-African trade accounts for only 16.6% of total trade, revealing immense potential for growth. Finally, this is where we are heading. A platform built for all. TrustExchange is more than a payment solution. It is a movement to transform financial services in Africa. By prioritizing trust, inclusion, and innovation, we aim to create a financial ecosystem where everyone thrives. Thank you.
Right. So, as we've all heard so far, cross-border payment remains one of the biggest challenges for freelancers and businesses in Africa. Africa has 120 million freelancers, yet a whole lot of our people are being held back from reaching their full potential by expensive fees, slow processes, limited access to global financial systems, and sometimes unnecessary withholding of funds. But what if there was a solution that bridges the gap and allowed us to not only compete, but lead on a global scale? Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Kufre, and today I'm excited to introduce you all to Blink, a platform that's powered by the tbDEX protocol that's redefining the future of global payments. Well, I'd like to continue this with a short demo of Maxwell, our software developer who's about to create a payment request for a project he just completed with a foreign client of his. But in the past, Maxwell has faced difficulties getting paid by foreign clients. But this time he is well prepared. He has signed up to Blink and also invited his client to Blink. So he will go ahead to create an invoice for the project he just completed. I would love to get paid in Bitcoin, but his client does not know how to make use of cryptocurrency. This is one of the gaps that Blink breaches. So we'll head to his client's account, and then we'll process this invoice in USD, a currency his client is much more familiar with. He will get a list of offerings from the different verified PFIs we have in our system that allows him to choose any of the offerings that gives him the best exchange rate or the best time for settlement. So, and he will be given a payment method from that PFI. And the payment method can be native to his own currency. So, go ahead and make payment to that PFI. So, he will go ahead to make payment to this PFI, authorize this transaction, get a quote for this transaction. If he's okay with it, he will confirm that. So, currently, we are asking our users to rate each transaction they perform. That way, we can correlate the performance of a PFI to each transaction. And with that, we can better serve our customers. So if this went well, he will go ahead and mention that. So at Blink, we intend for users to have ease of access. and usage. And one way we implement this with Blink is through our sign-up process. If you were to sign up on Blink, you will be given the option to import an existing deed, or you create a new account and we give you the option to export this deed and make use of it in any other tbDEX application. So currently our revenue model includes charging percentage fees on each transaction, and this can range between 1% to 3%, and also having pro user features that users can subscribe to. Some of our plans for Blink for the future is becoming a payment processor on platforms like Fiverr and Upwork, and also becoming a platform where users can experience true decentralization by performing peer-to-peer transactions using their decentralized wallet. And furthermore, currently, we have already begun the process of validating our idea, and this has led us to having 20 beta test users from 5 different countries already sign up to our wait list. You can scan the QR code to join our wait list. So I would like to end this presentation on this note to let us know that Blink is more than an app. It's a movement. We are not just breaking barriers. We are proving that Africans can not only compete, but lead in redefining the future of global payments. Thank you all for your attention. And I invite you all to join me as we redefine the future of global payments with Blink. Thank you.
All right, I just wanted to test the new mic for you. Okay, next group, last but not least, is tbDEX Go. Are they here? Oh.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
I am Eloke. I visited Accra for the first time in July. Beautiful city. I also got to meet Andrew in person for the first time. But one problem I consistently faced was having to pay for stuff. I already settled for poor exchange rates on my first day at the airport on landing. Also, I could not use local payment solutions because mobile money did not work for me. And my card also did not work at ATMs. Now, I faced this problem, along with 65 million other tourists and travelers that face this problem. And I'm sure a few of you here as well have faced this problem. And this is why we are building tbDEX Go. We're making it possible for travelers and tourists like you and I to make payments locally. Our solution combines the power of tbDEX's protocol, the accessibility of USSD solution. Now, what this does for us is it ensures that whether you're in Ghana like I was, or in Kenya here today like you are, you can get to pay like a local because we provide you with transaction enabling solutions that mean you only pay minimal fees, and also importantly, you do not require the internet, while also not having to settle for poor exchange rates. Basically, no more settling.
So you can think of our application, technically speaking, as having 3 main layers. First, the user interface. Users dial a USSD code on their phones and are presented with prompts they respond to. Secondly, identity management. The part of our application that handles managing user identities in a manner that conforms to decentralized web standards. Third, the core backend service. This is written in TypeScript, designed for Cloudflare workers, and handles everything from interactions with the tbDEX network to responding to the aforementioned USSD prompts.
But wait, you might be thinking, USSD, how does this work? But I do not have access to my local mobile payment solution.
Well, you would think that our application, having to be registered on different mobile networks, since it's USSD, would be a limiting factor. But it's actually our superpower. Mobile network operators, through international roaming agreements, allow you to access USSD services in your home country from wherever you are in the world. This allows us to offer our services to travelers who land in different countries and don't have access to internet, but have access to ubiquitous roaming networks. We believe the internet should be decentralized going forward. I'm sure some of you here do too. This is why we built tbDEX Go with this in mind. Users sign up on the application with their phone numbers. We associate these phone numbers with decentralized identifiers they can also export. Use these decentralized identifiers and verifiable credentials in interactions with the tbDEX network.
Now, how are we handling optionality? So we match users to the best offerings from PFIs by implementing a weighted ranking system similar to approaches in deep learning. Now we assign values to metrics like slippage and completed transactions from these PFIs, and then we use these values as input scores to rank these participating financial institutions. So along with getting the best rates on tbDEX Go, we also ensure that you as a user are connected to the PFIs that can handle your solution, giving you the best experience. Now, we consider user experience and customer satisfaction to be a big deal, as it should be. And this is why we have designed our interface with clear and consistent copy across our USSD application. Also, we have built an FAQ section inside of this, and along with leaving users with the option to rate their experience, which we then use to improve our app in general, and as well our weighted ranking system as earlier mentioned. Now our path to profitability is pretty clear. What we have done is we have allowed users to use a pay-as-you-use model with building. We have also built a serverless, or we have taken the decision to build a serverless network, which ensures that our upfront initial infrastructure costs are at the minimal, but it also scales as more users come on the tbDEX Go network with our revenue. Also, we have implemented a tier package offering, which means that users only get to pay for what they need. So, for example, they get to buy Go credits, which is what we're calling it, in different packages. So this incentivizes them to make more purchases. Next slide. This incentivizes them to make more purchases.
So to recap, we let users pay with a combination of tbDEX and USSD. Since making it to the finals, we've had a lot of time to think about our solution, the problem we are solving, and how we are solving it. We support a standard tbDEX send money flow. You provide your pay-in, payout method details, you send money to the PFI or are debited, and then the PFI in turn sends money to the person you are intending to send to. Now, all of this happens through slow traditional means. You have to go send money to the PFI, they will receive it, and then in turn send to the person you intend to send to. All while the taxi driver stares at you with a less than friendly look. We think we can improve on this experience with our wallets feature. We let users deposit currencies in specific currencies. We let users deposit currencies which they can spend at their destination. So you just provide your payout method details. So you just provide who you're sending to and then spend from your existing balance on the PFI. So again, this is non-custodial. We do not hold any user funds. And the combination of this, or paying out your money directly, in addition to reusable verifiable credentials, in our testing allows you to complete payments up to 75% faster. Now, we also think this pattern is really powerful because we can unlock new payment possibilities, especially where you move balances between PFIs. So demo, please. So this is me here in Kenya using my application. I do not have internet. I am roaming on Safaricom, and I'm using the application registered on my mobile network back home. So I tell the app how I want to send it, what balance I have, and I just go ahead to do this. I choose an offering from a PFI. That sounds good to me. And yes, so we are tbDEX Go.
tbDEX Go. We're connecting Africa with local payment solutions for travelers and tourists. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all so much for those wonderful presentations. As you all can see, this is the cream of the crop. We were definitely wowed by each and every presentation. Now we're going to tally and we're going to deliberate. But don't worry, go have a good night's rest. And then we'll be back tomorrow to announce the winner and present them with a prize. All right? Thank you so much.
Please don't go. Sorry, the session is not over, but not you. I thought you meant for the people to go. Another round of applause for her, please. I want you guys to give a shout out. I want to know who you were impressed with the most. I mean, I was impressed by all of them, So I want you to give all of them shout out, actually. Let's encourage them for them to know they've been preparing for that presentation for a while. It takes courage to stand up here. I know, because I'm freaking out right now. And so let's give a round of applause for NexX, Cove, Igbigi, TrustExchange, Blink, and tbDEX Go. Huge round of applause, please. First prize, $15,000 in Bitcoin. Second prize, $10,000 in Bitcoin. And third prize, $5,000 in Bitcoin. So we're really looking forward to who the winners will be tomorrow. Thank you to those of you that came in after we've started. Thanks so much for coming in. Please try and move forward so that you can join this conference. There's a conference at the front, and then there's nothing in the middle, and then it looks like there's another conference on the back. So please move forward so that we can all be in one conference. Let's give them a round of applause as they are moving forward. Please move forward. Thank you. Okay. So right now we are going to have a keynote address by Paulo Adoino. And he's the Chief Executive Officer of Tether, the world's largest and most widely used stablecoin. Ladies and gentlemen, please, a round of applause.
Hello, everyone. I'm Paulo Arduino. I'm the CEO of Tether. Thank you very much for being here, and I'm very excited to be part of the Bitcoin Africa conference here in Nairobi. While Tether is mostly known for its stablecoin business, everyone knows about USDT. USDT is the biggest and first stablecoin in the market in the crypto industry. USDT has been growing in the last years to become a more than 130 billion market cap behemoth, as well as of today, we count more than 400 million users globally, especially in emerging markets, developing countries. And USDT adoption is growing at 35 million new USDT wallets per quarter. We're very humbled and excited about this growth because it means that the product that we created, it's very useful and powerful and is helping all those people that struggle to have access to bank accounts. The population I'm referring to is called unbanked. These are people that have been left behind by the traditional financial system. They have been not interesting for the traditional financial system because they are just too poor, because they don't generate enough commissions on a yearly basis for the banks. But in the 21st century, in this century, financial inclusion has been the main headline for the Western world. And I feel like when I think about what the Western world did about financial inclusion, it's close to zero. I think Bitcoin and Tether made so much more for financial inclusion than any sponsored NGO or charity in the world. With 400 million users just powered by Tether, and likely many more empowered by Bitcoin, this is the way to go, right? This is the way to solve a real issue. Then, as I was saying, Tether this year in 2024 expanded its vision and the strategy to different areas. So we are heavily involved in Bitcoin mining. We are set to become one of the biggest Bitcoin miners in the world. We are devoting hundreds of millions of dollars and soon billions into Bitcoin mining. We have invested in artificial intelligence to create the first independent artificial intelligence infrastructure provider, to avoid that artificial intelligence is only controlled by big tech companies that will just try to centralize all human knowledge and all private information on their data centers. Then we invested in what we call Tether that invested in BCI, brain-computer interface. Is basically, if you are familiar with Neuralink, you could say the Neuralink is a competitor to BlackRock Neurotech, that is the company that we invested, that has developed the state-of-the-art of brain chips that are helping people and patients that have ALS to speak again at the pace of 62 words per minute. So this technology can already, so the chip that our company developed already can read 62 words per minute from the human brain, helping people that are losing or lost a wallet and have a non-custodial wallet, and non-custodial Bitcoin wallet and stablecoin wallet within such website or app. I also a big fan of artificial intelligence, as I said before, given also our investments in the field. And I think that I see a future where AI agents should be fully decentralized, should settle their transactions on the Bitcoin network. They should have access to a non-custodial wallet. And I think that WDK is exactly that, is a library that can empower humans and machines alike to build non-custodial transaction systems so that humans can pay AI agents can pay humans, they can pay among each other, they can be completely free and dependent from the centralization that few big tech companies are trying to push for. We have also a great booth here at the conference for WDK, the wallet development kit developed by Tether. You can also find more information. If you're a developer, you can find more information either at the booth, but on our website, wallet.tether.io. If you have any questions, please shoot us a message. We are going to reply, help you to and advise you to how to build the app, how you can use at best the WDK. So thank you very much for being here, and I hope that you are enjoying the conference, and please again stop by to our booth.
Let's give him a round of applause, please. I have some hats to give out here. And you all pretty much know the answers to the questions. So please tell me whoever you think is deserving of the answers, or whoever wants the hats. Please shout out the answer. Bitcoin is what? Here, would you like a hat? I can throw it, but I don't want to hit anybody's face. The hat is given to us by Blinks. Please, let's give them a round of applause. So we appreciate you. Who invented Bitcoin? So I had a number of people say that. How many of you want a Blinks hat? You can all come forward. There's plenty. Thank you. Oh, okay. Good. I didn't know y'all want this hat. This is all I needed to do to get you all to smile. The same people I was asking to move forward that did not. Now you come forward for hats. Say good afternoon, ma. So, how many more Bitcoins can be mined? You don't know. You know? Huh? 21 Bitcoins? 21 million. Ah, my brother, even you came forward. It's good to see you. Yeah. See, I'm a very generous somebody. Who else wants a hat, though? Oh, why didn't you just come forward? I don't need to read the questions anymore. How many Bitcoins are produced every 10 minutes? Let me just take everything. Every 10 minutes, how many Bitcoins? 1, 3. Okay, come. Get it. Wait, you have one on your head now. How many do you want to wear? We want to give to somebody that doesn't have. Sorry. Oh yeah, come. Ah, you're wearing a hat. You want this one? Auntie, you said you don't have any on your head. You see somebody that has one, they are coming for number 2. Ask and it shall be given. My brother, I'm trying to give it to you, but my hand is going here. And then it's going here. I wanted to give you, but you didn't move fast. So what about the other brother that I turned back? I'm sorry. Please give him a round of applause for coming all the way out. But you had something on your head. Okay, guys, I have a confession. Usually I'm well behaved. But if you see that I've not been well behaved today, don't blame me. I'm seriously jet lagged. I almost fell here. I was about to tip over. Because it's literally like 8 a.m. back home. So it's like I did not sleep all night. So I decided to go and get more food. I know, I said I was watching my height. Just so that I can stay awake. But I'm hoping that this next program will help me not to wake up proper and not sleep anymore. We'll be talking about building Bitcoin's future, the case for choosing a career in open source. Please help me welcome to the front Adam Jonas, the CEO of Chain Code Labs. Please. Did you not enjoy him last night?
Hello.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you. So, my Nigerian friends tell me that I often don't greet people before I just start talking, so thank you for coming. I came halfway across the world to talk to you for 15 minutes. And so I'm hoping that you can give me some energy back. Is this our clicker? Click. Click. Yes. Okay. So this starts with a simple premise that tomorrow can be better than today. Because today, all of our digital payments are tracked. And we are told that this is for our protection. And yet, all that data is bundled up and sold to the highest bidder. And today, the money in your bank account isn't yours. And so this Lebanese woman is holding up a bank with a toy gun to get possession of her money back. And today, any government has the means to extrajudicially freeze or seize your funds if you speak out against them. And so if you think that these are ridiculous things in our modern times, if you believe that we need change, then I hope you will join me and choose Bitcoin. Yeah, this is maybe not too compelling for a Bitcoin conference. We've heard these things before. There are many memes of Bitcoin fixes this, fix the money, fix the world, Bitcoin's inevitable. But do you actually believe that you can just kick up your feet and these things are going to happen for you with the passage of time? I'd like to speak with you for the rest of the time I have about what I feel is one of the truest and purest ways to opt into Bitcoin, and that is choose Bitcoin open source as a career. So there are 150 people on the planet that have made this kind of choice. That's 150 people holding up the entire infrastructure of how this stuff works. About 40 of them work on Bitcoin Core. And I'm here for one specific purpose. I'm on the hunt for 151. So 151 probably knows that money has been around as long as society itself. But isn't it awe-inspiring to imagine that we're reinventing money from scratch in an open digital form rather than contorting our old money into something ostensibly digital? Bitcoin is not a refactor. Bitcoin is a rewrite. And so, while Bitcoin is a peaceful resistance, it is a resistance nonetheless. The cypherpunks talked about this idea for decades, and then one of them went out and made it. And there are 150 of us that believe that we can pull off one of the biggest hacks of all time to replace the global money with a new money, a better money. We are an ideologically driven group of nerds who think that we can do better. It's okay to clap. That's all right. So I would say that this is a pretty unique period in the arc of this project. And to be perfectly frank, I'm not so sure that we're going to be able to reach our audacious goal of replacing the global standard with this newfangled internet money. But you got to admit, we've gotten pretty far. To take it the rest of the way, we need to build something that can weather the changes of history and outlive us all. This is the Mosque of Djenné. It's in Mali. It's the largest mud brick structure in the world. As you probably can imagine, mud is not an amazing material to build something that you want to last a long time. And so what's interesting about this is that its survival, the building's survival, depends on the attention and care of the community. So every year there's a festival called Crepissage, and thousands of people climb up on wooden scaffolding and apply mud plaster and essentially rebuild the walls every year. Thousands more support them by handing up mud balls through human chains up to them. Some cook, others play music to fuel the work. Everybody does their part. So this festival, it has a functional purpose to reinforce the building's infrastructure. But it also serves as a really important cultural event because every year it connects this community to both the meaning behind the mosque and it reaffirms the social bonds among them. So Bitcoin, like the Mosque of Djenné, was built in a pretty brittle material, C++ code. That's a programming joke. But it also had a long-term vision. The halvings of which you're looking at the code of were programmed until 2140. Have you ever heard of a piece of software that in its first release was supposed to last over 100 years? And so from the beginning, this was not a move fast and break things endeavor. The cryptography is battle-tested. The pace of development is deliberate because this is our one chance. And so what I think outsiders miss, for people that aren't philosophically grounded, for people that are focused on the price, what they miss is all the work that goes into smoothing over the cracks. So you, as 151, you're not going to be spinning up a new repo, coming in to save the day with a new feature. What's needed is the uncelebrated support of others. 151 needs to carry mud. That's writing fuzz tests. That's attesting to reproducible builds. That's doing review. That's doing all the work that keeps this thing going. The maintenance of this project serves a functional role. But it also connects us to why this is meaningful in the first place. It's a ritual affirmation of the project's meaning. And without the support of the community, the philosophical continuity of what this thing is will be lost, and Bitcoin will fall. So I think Bitcoin is far from inevitable. These are some disclosures that have come out over the last few months from the Bitcoin Core devs. And these vulnerabilities go back almost a decade. They've just sort of been taken care of and not necessarily released publicly. But they are objective proof that while Bitcoin Core has a very high bar for its quality and its reliability, it is far from a perfect piece of software. To be fair, keeping this thing alive and doing all this work, that falls on the shoulders of about 40 people. And these people don't do it for prestige. I doubt you know any of their names. They do it because, despite what you're going to read on Twitter, they are the most optimistic Bitcoiners on the planet, doing what they think needs to be done to keep this thing going. Applying mud plaster to the cracks that they see and inspiring us, I believe, with a project that will stand the test of time. Banks recognize borders, but Bitcoin open source does not. And so if you are interested in contributing, there's no HR screens, no resume to send anything to. You can jump in. So I'm going to talk about a few people who have inspired me working on this project. The first one is Ashana. Ashana has been working on Bitcoin for the last few years, and she works on Bitcoin Core and also has done some privacy research. And I think, personally, she's one of the most promising developers in Bitcoin. And that's not because she has a lot of experience, because she doesn't. She's a self-taught programmer. She's taken a few high school classes. But she is incredibly ambitious and essentially unflappable, and she is insanely smart. And so Bitcoin open source isn't about your credentials. It's not about your resume. It's about what you can contribute. Because Ashana's first contribution that was merged into Core came at the age of 14. And Ashana is an important part of our future. And Bitcoin is better because Ashana is here. This is SpaceBear. SpaceBear has been working on PayJoin, which is a privacy protocol that they're looking to integrate into wallets. And SpaceBear is obviously a NIM. And NIMs are totally welcome. You don't have to have a face. That's totally fine. And SpaceBear cares about privacy. You know how I know? Because SpaceBear works on privacy. And so you get to choose the thing that's of most personal importance. And Bitcoin is better because SpaceBear is here. And this is Abubakar. And Abubakar has been working on Bitcoin Core for the last couple of years. And I'm really excited about this young man's future. He is on a mission to solve the fee estimation issues in the Bitcoin Core wallet. So we've been waiting for, well, really since the beginning of this project, so 15 plus years, for a full-time Bitcoin Core developer to emerge from this part of the world. And I would have never guessed that some 20-year-old from Abuja, Nigeria, with a short resume and a mild manner would be the one that would break through. But the beauty of it is that it just doesn't matter what I think. Abubakar matters, and Abubakar has blazed a trail for others to follow. And so clearly, Bitcoin is better because Abubakar is here. There's no mystery as to how to become valuable in Bitcoin open source. If you do work in support of others, if you do review, if you try to pick up things that have been left behind, you will create immense leverage for your effort. And I think one of the things that gets missed is that this is totally open. Anyone can jump in. We also have another really strong selling point, and that is we have just the best problems. So Bitcoin sits at the intersection of economics and game theory, philosophy, security, and of course, computer science. Tens of thousands of nodes are running on strangers' desks and Raspberry Pis and Amazon data centers, gossiping blocks and transactions in the most adversarial environment ever conceived. And while Bitcoin is a monster challenge, it's not just like an academic style challenge. It's not just theoretical. Bitcoin is the largest honeypot in history, a $2 trillion market, a $2 trillion target that has had no downtime in the last 10 years. So Bitcoin, I believe, is a good idea and offers people an opportunity to join a legacy of troublemakers trying to do something positive in the world. And so if this speaks to you, this is something you'd like to pursue, I have two very biased suggestions on where to go next. The first one is the Bitcoin Dev Project. So if you go to Bitcoin Devs, you're going to find reading and tutorials. We just released a new game, which I think is incredible. It's called Saving Satoshi. You should check that out. Jamal has been working on some great tutorials. And I would just caution you on one thing when it comes to this kind of self-starter and autodidactic path. And that is, when you do reading and when you do tutorials and sort of toys, you sometimes delude yourself to think that you're making actionable progress. But if you came to do open source, then work on open source, which means download the project, run the software, find bugs, and fix it for everybody else. So the other thing is a program that we ran in January. And just so there was no confusion as to what this program's purpose was, we called it Start Your Career in Bitcoin Open Source. Not very creative, but at least you get the point. And the deliverable of this was not a good educational experience, although I think that we did deliver on that. The deliverable on this was to change people's lives, to find people who were not working in open source and get them funded and start a new career path for them. And so here are 8 that followed that exact track. None of them were working on Bitcoin open source, and they're funded by 5 different organizations. Special thanks to Spiral and OpenSats and the like for taking a chance on these developers. Yeah, I could clap for that too. And so we know that there's many more of them out there. And so we're going to run this again in partnership with bTrust. So at the end of this month, by the end of this month, applications will close and we'll start in mid-January. And the goal of this is to change lives. So, are you living in the future that you want for yourself and those you love? A future where all of our digital payments are tracked. A future where our money in our bank account actually isn't our money. A future where governments have the means to confiscate your funds if you speak out against them. The powers that be are rooting for us to fail. They are waiting to tell us that we were wrong, that our little toy is of no real use, and that we have to turn back to the status quo that values things like birthplace over brilliance. And so all that remains is to ask the question, are you 151? You'll have a chance to join up with Ashana, Space Bear, and Abubakar to make real change. Because it is you that understands these problems better than anyone else. It is you that understands cross-border transactions. It is you that understands all the hacks that you have to go through on a daily basis because you have been left on the outside. And so we need your energy and we need your perspectives to be able to solve the problems that Bitcoin was designed for. If you've made it through the last 15 minutes, then you have all the tailwinds behind you to have a successful career. But the question is, when you look back, when you reflect on your professional life, will it matter? If you are 151, it is my job to help you. And so I hope you will join us in January. But if you don't have the patience to make it that long, you can come find me in the halls. I'm not sure that Bitcoin fixes this. I'm not sure that Bitcoin cures all the ills of our modern society, but we have this gift. We have this brief moment in time when we can build something better. What we need are people who are willing to change their personal narrative from passive cheerleader to active contributor. And Bitcoin will be better when you are here. Thank you.
Please let's give him another round of applause. That was powerful. Thank you so much. So we have just one more keynote address, and then we can go into the fireside chats. And the next one will be Global Bitcoin Game Theory, how Bitcoin thrives in China despite the bans. And to talk to us about that is author of Would Mao Hold Bitcoin, a Bitcoin magazine. And his name is Roger Huang. Please give him a huge round of applause. Thank you so much.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for the Africa Bitcoin Conference and for all of you for attending this. This has been an amazing experience for me. My first time in Africa, and I'm having a ton of fun. So just wanted to shout out the conference and all of you first. Now, I have some very, very good news for you. Bitcoin is thriving in China despite the strongest attacks that have been levied against it by a government that we've ever seen. So some of you may know a little bit about the Chinese technical surveillance state. China is a country with the most security cameras per person. In fact, there is one security camera for every 2 people in China. And that's backed up with advanced facial recognition that recognizes whether or not you're jaywalking in the street or anything else. China is also able to develop infrastructure and controls companies that, for example, develop 5G standards like Huawei. And China has a great firewall, which bans certain sites or domains and prevents access to information for 1.3 billion people. This is all this to say that China is a very formidable adversary and a country that has both built the surveillance state and has tried to implement and attack Bitcoin in multiple ways. So just to reiterate, those are kind of the surveillance state points that we just talked about. And now I want to talk a little bit about how that surveillance state was trained onto Bitcoin specifically. You know, everybody always has that meme. They're like, you know, how many times has China banned Bitcoin? I wrote a book on this, and I've actually also lost count as well. You know, can Bitcoin be banned even more, right? And my answer to you is yes, but also there's a lot of hope because a lot of the restrictions did not work. So what actually really happened? So first, you know, the Chinese party state tried to get banks to stop using Bitcoin, but that doesn't matter because Bitcoin was never built for the banks in the first place. Second, they took down what are called key opinion leaders, so influencers. You know, people who are talking about Bitcoin, who are trying to, you know, spread the word around in China. No offense, I know we have a lot of people in Bitcoin Twitter, hopefully some of you all who are navigating to Nostr. China is proof that you can shut down almost half an information ecosystem or half a Twitter group. And, you know, apparently Bitcoin just keeps on chugging along. Then there was the exchanges ban, which got a little bit more serious. So in China right now, you cannot use an exchange publicly to use Chinese currency, the renminbi, in order to buy Bitcoin. And people have been arrested for this in China. But, you know, there's over-the-counter, there's peer-to-peer trade, there's people who are still trading, you know, and there's actually some really clever techniques that the exchanges have used in order to still facilitate trade and for people to still buy. And we're going to see that Chinese people are still very much a part of the global demand story for Bitcoin. Then there was law enforcement for trading. So like I mentioned, there were multiple people who were arrested, some of them for 7 or 8 years for running OTC desks, over-the-counter trading desks, which are kind of like private banking trading for Bitcoin, separate from exchanges. And these arrests, you know, they were not super comprehensive, and usually they're in coordination with other crimes, but they did happen, and people are in jail because of trading virtual currencies in China. And then finally, you know, I don't know if all of you are familiar with Damus. I'm actually, I live in Vancouver, and Will and the Damus team are based out there. He gave me this amazing story about how the Chinese party state took down the Damus app like 2 days after it launched. China's watching you. China's watching our ecosystem. You know, it takes something pretty advanced to just go out there and reach out and ban an app like Damus. They also actually messed with the default relays, showing that China has people who are tracking these different technologies and trying to understand, you know, how to jam up these different techs. But ultimately, you can't really stop the internet. I mean, Nostr is built on WebSockets, and it's the same as web traffic everywhere. And I'm going to be really excited to show you all some Chinese people and some Chinese conversations that are still happening on Nostr, despite the fact that clients and apps have been taken down. So this is the kind of resilience we're talking about. I have seen many posts on Nostr talking about whistleblowers, Tiananmen Square, forbidden topics in China itself. And also a lot of Chinese people who are just having fun with it. You know, Chinese people who are talking with each other about how to circumvent the Great Firewall, how to download apps on Android packages in order to avoid the app takedowns. This shows the continued resilience. And the other part of that is that Chinese people continue to buy Bitcoin. We're going to go into that a little bit more later. Bitcoin miners have gone around the world, but I can tell you through multiple sources that there is still Bitcoin mining happening in China. Despite the fact that there were multiple provinces and a national government statement that Bitcoin mining was harmful for the whole of Chinese society, there are still people mining Bitcoin in China today. There's embrace of freedom tech, and it's not just Bitcoin like we talk about. There are, at one point, Damus and Nostr were some of the most popular apps in Hong Kong and in China before they were taken down. And there are a lot of Chinese entrepreneurs and a lot of Chinese miners, a lot of Chinese builders in the ecosystem. If any of you go to any of these conferences, including the Africa Bitcoin Conference, you might have seen some of them around. So here are just some active MPub accounts that are on Nostr that are from China. And I just want to point out like one really cool one, which is Michael Wong. He's like kind of a Prince of Mandopop. It'd be a little bit like if Taylor Swift was on like Nostr and just like posting and trying to orange pill people. So you know, that's one of the cool things about Nostr is a lot of the clients auto-translate. So I always encourage people to just, you know, follow people from around the world and get a sense of these different conversations. I'll leave this on for a little bit, but just so people can have an idea of different Nostr accounts they can follow. And for those of you not familiar with Nostr, these are like NIP05s, so you can kind of just put that in and then usually find them in most clients. Nice. So what's the current state? What's going on? There's a lot of trading-focused conversations, but there's also quite a bit of Bitcoin maxis that are present on Nostr in China. We talked a little bit about the trading ban and everything like that, but there's still a lot of Chinese people buying Bitcoin to this day, and the way they do it is through these over-the-counter trading desks or through peer-to-peer trade. And just to show kind of this quantitative data for that, you know, this is the amount of total Chinese transactions based off of China-based over-the-counters. And as you can see, since the bans in 2021, which were the exchange ban and the mining ban, there's only been more steady increase. And with the current Chinese economic downturn, more and more Chinese people every day are turning to Bitcoin or Tether. I mean, to be honest, a lot of Tether as well, but anyways. So what about the geopolitics of it? How do we go through the global game theory of it? So some of us might be a little bit confused, you know, well, China banned Bitcoin, but Hong Kong has an ETF. What's going on with that? I have nowhere near enough the time to explain all that. Please buy my book. But, but I will say a couple of things. The first is that gentleman to the left is Liu He, who is one of China's most senior economic advisors to Xi Jinping himself. He was the one who said Bitcoin mining was harmful for the whole of Chinese society and started getting law enforcement involved with the Bitcoin mining ban as well as the exchanges ban. And I want to say that the digital yuan is China's path forward. And we're going to talk about that a little bit on the next panel. But that both the contrast of the Hong Kong ETFs, which are a custodied solution, which rely on regulated exchanges in Hong Kong, and the contrast of Hong Kong debanking protesters and using, you know, mechanisms of control to squash dissent, show that this contrast is not something that is, you know, principled or ideological, that China or Hong Kong are not aligned in terms of Bitcoin, but they are aligned in terms of control and state control mechanisms that could possibly capture Bitcoin. So I do want to warn, you know, all of us in this room. I think we all have a responsibility to really be on top of this. You know, I know there's a lot of fans of the ETFs, and a lot of the fans of the number go up, and I love the price going up too. But as we're talking about states, you know, as they're considering what to do with Bitcoin and everything like that, I hope that we can remember the principles of freedom, decentralization, human rights, and individual liberty that have brought these technologies forth in the first place. So a little bit more about the global game theory, because people always ask me this. You know, I also write on Forbes, and it's like, you know, people are like, is China going to start mining Bitcoin? I think the likely answer is no. But I will say that there are people who have said in South China Morning Post and other news outlets that China's mining ban is a big mistake, and I am one of those people, so look out for those articles. China has seized Bitcoin. You know, we talk a lot about the strategic Bitcoin reserve in the United States. China's largest stash is about 210,000 seized from Plus Token. It's currently probably, they still hold about 15,000, but there is still a lot of seized Bitcoin that China cooperates with different companies to try to dispose of. And they still do hold a little bit. Don't know how much, but maybe between 15,000 to slightly more. Are they actively buying Bitcoin? I would say that China is unlikely to be actively buying Bitcoin, and that is likely not to change for a while. One of the reasons why it will likely not change is because in China, the technocrats are in control. So in the United States and other places, you know, with the central bank digital currency, you have legislators and others saying these are terrible ideas. In China, the central leadership has let the central bank run with it, and the central bank has now had this 15, 20-year plan on the horizon, which is very clearly to enforce regulations to make it harder to deal with Bitcoin and also to promote the ECNY, which is the Chinese digital yuan. Finally, there's CBDCs versus stablecoins versus Bitcoin. I think we'll get into that a little bit more on the next panel. So the future is that, at least at a national level, there's unlikely to be a quote-unquote unban. I will tell you, yes, China still has ways of banning Bitcoin more. They haven't gone after individual miners in the way that they could probably do. In China, the courts say that Bitcoin is property that is protected by the law. So that is something that has been a long-holding precedent. So they haven't gone after people who are Bitcoin holders solely for holding Bitcoin. They could choose to change that. I find that unlikely as well. The other thing that people should know is that Hong Kong is different, but it's more positioned as a digital assets hub and more of a Web3 kind of focus. China's economic downturn, this might be something that most people don't know, although in the African continent I feel like it will resonate a lot. China's economy is doing very poorly right now. There is a real estate slowdown. It's possible that China may not hit 5% GDP growth, which would be the slowest GDP growth since Mao Zedong died and Deng Xiaoping ascended to power in the 1970s. So we're talking about a whole epochal shift, and this is a very bullish factor for Bitcoin because not only is China's central bank going to have more monetary stimulus, but Chinese people are more and more going to look to get out of this situation and try to make different returns on their assets. I talked to some people and they're like, how much did you lose in your stock portfolio? 60%. How much do you lose in your real estate? 30%. You don't even want to mention how much Bitcoin has gained relative to that. It's just like adding insult to injury. They're literally losing 30 or 60% of their net worth just by holding assets within China. And of course, in China, you're not allowed to exit money in the system under over $50,000 USD per person per year. They have some of the strictest capital controls in the world. Finally, China will watch Trump. I think this is a very underrated factor, but many policy figures, I was surprised by this, but a former vice minister of finance basically said that the Bitcoin mining ban was probably a mistake, that the Bitcoin exchanges ban was probably a mistake, right after Trump spoke at PubKey, which I thought was a really interesting kind of thing. And then in terms of war versus peace, I'll kind of leave this a little open-ended, but of course, a question that people always ask, way above my pay grade, but it's like, is China going to invade Taiwan? Is there going to be global war? How is that going to align? What's happening with BRICS? And all I will say is that even though it seems unlikely now, there is always a possibility that China will be more aggressive in pursuing its goal. I will say that China is deadly serious, the leadership is deadly serious about Taiwan. And that is an existential cause. And that's something that may not resonate as well with outsiders. And that's why I believe eventually there may be some conflict. Cool. Who am I? I am all of these things. And so if people want to take a screenshot and things like that, this is the book, Would Mao Hold Bitcoin? I want to thank you all for your attention. I want to thank the organizers again for inviting me. And I want to end off with kind of 3 last things. Just in the vein of what I said before about our principles. Pardon Julian Assange, free the Hong Kong 47, who were unfairly prosecuted for running a pro-democracy primary, and solidarity with all the protesters and dissenters from around the world, including those who protested against the finance bill here in Kenya. Thank you very much. All right, now I think I just sit here because I'm doing a panel right after, so.
Please, let's give him another round of applause. I really wish that African leaders can attend this conference. Maybe you can extend invitations to them and see what they say. You never know. Another president that I would have loved to visit us at this conference sometimes would be the president of El Salvador. In 2021, they embraced Bitcoin. And I just wanted to point out, because it's so sad when I see countries that are fighting Bitcoin. There's another country that has embraced Bitcoin, and you can just see how they are doing. It's like an experiment. I don't know why they need to fight But you can see the country that embraced Bitcoin. You can see the impact in El Salvador because they've embraced Bitcoin. So it has made remittance very easy. And because of that, it has attracted businesses from different parts of the world to El Salvador. It's putting El Salvador on the global map as a Bitcoin-friendly destination. A lot of businesses are now moving to El Salvador because they've embraced Bitcoin. It's really boosting their tourism sector because so many companies are going there. And it's also translated into more job opportunities, job in tech and so on. So our leaders in Africa need to do what El Salvador is doing. First of all, Africa has been left behind in so many aspects. But if we can just do what they're doing in El Salvador and embrace Bitcoin, you just never know. We'll also be able to leap and move forward. So please think about inviting some African leaders whose heads are correct. Not all of them. Some of them, their heads are not correct. But now we're having a wave of some young people getting into politics in Africa. You can also invite lawmakers. Let them come, plant the seed in them, and then let's see what they do with that. So that was a very inspiring session to know that despite all the hurdles, people are still into Bitcoin in China. So please, let's give him another round of applause. Someone left these 2 books. So in case you are looking for them, Bitcoin Mining Economics, Bitcoin Mining Handbook. Please, I'm sitting right here. If you left this book out here, we're looking for the owner. And I'm really excited about this next Fireside chat, decoding CBDCs, implication for privacy control and financial surveillance. And this will be moderated by the director of Africa Bitcoin Conference. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Farida Naborema. She's going to introduce the other speakers, but while they are coming up, please open your Twitter and follow Farida Naborema. I really don't understand how you can fully embrace the vision without following the visioneer. Who is not following Farida Naborema here? And some of you are following those some influencers have millions of followers. Does she deserve to have millions of followers or not? Yes, she does. Follow her on Twitter, follow her on Instagram. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to see you today. I hope you've been having and enjoying your second day so far. Before I get started with today's session, I kind of wanted to answer one of the things that Adeola raised recently when she mentioned that we should be inviting African governments into this conversation. We totally are in sync with that. Actually, for this year's Africa Bitcoin Conference, we planned a full roundtable with African regulators. We sent invitations to regulators from several countries, from financial institutions, ministers of finance, ministers of energy, because we believe it was important for us to engage them about the opportunities that avail in the Bitcoin ecosystem for the continent. Interestingly, that roundtable was supposed to take place this afternoon with some of the key leaders in the industry from the African continent. But our guys at the top, most of them canceled at the very last minute, and we had to cancel the session. So we are trying, we are making efforts, and maybe one day they will listen to us. But as an activist, I always believe that change comes from the bottom, not from the top. By the time the vast majority of the people on this continent adopt Bitcoin because they need it, governments will have no other option to also follow the trend. So we will get there one day. So, thank you. So this conversation is also, to some extent, about government. And here I have two great experts who have been working a lot on CBDCs. CBDCs is short for central bank denominated currency. I have Roger, I have Freddie. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey.
You're welcome. So the first question that I'm going to ask is going to help us define CBDCs, because I want people to understand what CBDCs are. And I'm going to address the question to Freddie here. For anyone who is unfamiliar with the term, what is CBDCs? Can you tell us more about it?
Thanks, Frida. Before I do answer it, I just want to say thank you so much for the invitation to attend, both to you and to all the organizers. I was raised in Zimbabwe, but I now live in the UK. It's fantastic to be back in Africa. My first time in Kenya, so thank you.
That's great.
Very much appreciated. So the clue is in the name. A central bank digital currency is supposed to be a digital replication of one of the two types of money that currently exists within our system. Most people are unaware that most of the money we use, whether that's digital or physical, at the moment is either a liability of a commercial bank like Standard Chartered, or it's the liability of a central bank, which we often see in the form of a banknote. Now, the fantastic thing about a banknote is that I can pass it to you peer-to-peer without a third party. And a lot of the central banks and governments who are pushing the idea of CBDCs suggest that it will be just the same as a paper banknote, but just in digital form. That, as we're going to explore during the conversation, is very much not the case. And I think an additional point I'd make as part of the answer is something that we should keep in mind while we're going through these different questions. We live in a world where freedom and control are in extreme opposition at the moment. There is potential with the transmission of money into a purely digital form for all our transactions to be monitored, all of our transactions to be controlled, all of our transactions to be censored. There's an Aldous Huxley quote that I like to return to a lot of the time, which is that we can only achieve our full human potential if we are free, and freedom is therefore supremely important. And that's something I very much believe in as well. And if that's true, then that means that CBDCs are supremely dangerous. That's
talking about freedom. How do you think that fundamental transactional freedom is to other types of freedom you have out there? So I was asking, how do you see transactional freedom as important to other forms of freedom?
It's probably easiest to give a few examples. So, for example, I've just read Roger's book, which is great. I recommend that strongly to you. One example of that, how important transactional freedom is to all other freedoms, partly because it's invisible. You often think of freedom in terms of freedom of speech, freedom of association, freedom to go and exercise your vote at the ballot box. If you're able to control how someone spends their money, then it's a very easy way for you to shortcut control over that person. And the more complete your control over a person's spending choices, the more complete is your control over that individual. And the example that I would pluck from Roger's book is in terms of traveling in Hong Kong to attend different protests. It was possible for the government to track exactly when, where, and how people were using the metro to travel. Again, according to the story, it was possible for people to circumvent that by, for example, leaving coins or tickets in machines or swapping their cards so that the government wasn't able to track them. But I think that's quite a powerful example of a government that didn't want people to protest, that didn't want people to travel, being able to track exactly where those people were. And then, if the government has the power, following the receipt of that information, to freeze your means of exchange, then immediately you have to ask the question, am I going to go to this protest if it means that I then can't buy food for my family? Likely no.
Thank you, Freddie. 2 years ago when we started ABC, it was in Ghana, and we did approach Ghanaian officials about the event, if they were interested in being there, because we thought it would be a good opportunity for them to also learn about the space. And the answer we got from the central bank, they were like, yeah, that's very exciting. In fact, we want to come and talk about the ECD. We want people to embrace the ECD. We are working on it, and it's going to be big. And we're like, I don't think that's what we do there. But you're welcome to come to the space and learn. And they did come both years, which was great. But it's going to lead to my next question, which I'm going to pass to Roger, who has written extensively on central bank denominated currencies, especially in China. What do you think is driving the very high interest governments are now having in creating their own cryptocurrency? We've seen Nigeria develop the e-Naira, other governments in other parts of the world are doing the same. And for the average citizen that doesn't understand how Bitcoin works, they may think that their government's currency, centralized e-currency, equates Bitcoin. But what is the driving force for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you brought a perfect example of how, like, as an activist, you're bottoms up, and this is all top down. So the Bank of International Settlements, which is the central bank for central banks, is driving a lot of this conversation right now. China through Project mBridge, which is kind of this international cross-border CBDC pilot, is trying to drive these standards forward. And the reality is that governments are actually coming at it from a place of fear. Because of Bitcoin, and to a certain extent, stablecoins and Libra and things like that were proposed, governments felt like they were behind the ball. So China, for example, even though it was one of the first governments to research a central bank digital currency, it specifically cited Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, as well as Libra and other what they considered private monies, as reasons to accelerate that research. And so that's what I would say. It's a top-down driven approach, and it's a fear-driven approach.
Thank you, Roger. And, this is going to lead to my next question. I've always been interested in knowing how the idea of launching a centralized currency, e-currency, could potentially pose a threat to the economic stability of nations. However, some governments have made the point that this is going to ease access to banking for the average citizen, considering we have a huge financial infrastructural deficit on the continent. We, barely more than 70% of our people don't have access to bank accounts. And they believe that launching CBDCs will fasten the process. And they also make a claim that this will also reduce the cost of producing cash. But my point, and some even believe that it could also reduce inflation. There was hopes at some point when the e-Naira was being launched that it was going to stabilize the Naira. But can you tell us if CBDCs have any power to prevent inflation? Just like Bitcoin is deflationary, can CBDCs also be deflationary?
Well, directly no, because like the CBDC is just a representation of the underlying unit or the currency. Yeah. So I mean, in terms of like the proposed benefits, I mean that's the things that you identified are very legitimate problems. The fact that there are people who want to be banked, who are not banked, the fact that there's financial services infrastructure and a deficit across. But my personal conviction is that the solution is not top-down driven, central bank digital currency solution that's being fit to this problem. I'll give you all one quick anecdote and then we can kind of run on. Actually, the head of China's digital currency project, the initiator, was just arrested for corruption just a little while ago. And he was responsible for selecting all the vendors. So I'm just saying, I respect these very legitimate problems. I don't think the solution is where we want it to be.
Well, thank you, Roger. But do you think there's any lesson we can learn from China's experience when it comes to CBDC?
No, there's lots. But if I want to keep it to two, I mean, I think there's, first, there's kind of like that CBDCs themselves, like structurally, have problems that governments aren't really effective at actually really pushing and promoting them. It basically makes a central bank a tech company. It's a very, very different model. So in China and in Nigeria, you see a lot of the struggle is that not that many people are using it. Now, I think what's cause for concern is that if people don't use a product, normally if you're a private company, you can't really do anything about that. Just build a better product. But if you're a government, what you will do, and some governments have done, is they will use force until, and I think we've seen that more in Nigeria, for example, and other places, until that solution is adopted. So I would say there's two lessons there, if I were to sum it up. One is that, CBDCs have structural properties that make them very unlikely to get traction in many ways. But there is still significant, or should still be significant concern, because, even if CBDCs fail, they will bring more government repression.
Thank you, Roger. Freddie, you lead the advocacy work at the Bitcoin Policy Institute in the UK, and you have been doing a lot of advocacy around promoting Bitcoin. In many European countries as well, there is a driving force behind government adopting CBDCs. I would like to know what has been the response so far in terms of European government's approach to Bitcoin. Do you believe they are progressive? And do you think there is hope that we may get to a point where they understand the role Bitcoin is playing in advancing financial inclusion globally?
Well, I'm a hopeful person, so I answer yes to that. There is always hope. Maybe starting on the financial inclusion point and why that may not be the panacea for CBDCs that a lot of governments think it is. In Europe as well, much as in many other countries, including on the African continent, you often hear, it'll bank the unbanked. The two biggest reasons why people are unbanked is, firstly, they can't pass KYC because they don't have ID or they don't have a fixed address. And secondly, they don't trust the government. So neither of those two reasons are solved by the production of a CBDC. Almost every CBDC project that we've seen around the world requires some level of KYC passing. Even the eNaira is a great example. The eNaira gives you tiered access depending on how much data you're willing to give. So if you only give your phone number, you get a small amount of functionality in your wallet. You can only spend a small amount of eNaira. Essentially, most of the projects that we've seen around the world are replicating that structure. Certainly the one that the Bank of England is looking at does exactly the same thing. It treats your personal data as a commodity, and the more of your personal data you're willing to surrender, the more functionality you'll get. But again, looping back to a point that I think you just made, Roger, if these things are not useful, people aren't voluntarily going to use them. And we're already seeing that certainly in the UK and increasingly in Europe as well, which I think is a good thing. I'm not a fan of CBDCs, if that wasn't already clear. There's a lot of pushback, certainly politically in the UK. The House of Lords did a really thorough report, which was quite good reading if you're a Bitcoiner. They said CBDCs are a solution in search of a problem. They don't seem to solve any problem that currently exists. And the fact of the matter is, most of the money that we already use is digital if we're not using physical cash. I used Tando and M-Pesa for the first time last night. I was blown away. I mean, I've not seen anything that good in Britain or in Europe. So, I mean, respect to the guys who put that together. And I think, frankly, if you drill down to the functionality of what is currently being built on Bitcoin and with other digital monies around it, the usability and the functionality of those products is way ahead of what we're seeing. And maybe 2 points to wrap up this answer. Roger, you mentioned that central banks would have to become tech companies. Firstly, no way a central bank is going to build something as good as Tando plus M-Pesa. Never. That's never going to happen. And secondly, you enter an interesting Ouroboros of regulation where if you have a direct relationship between an individual citizen and the central bank, who regulates that relationship? Because at the moment in the UK, our regulator we'd have the Prudent Regulatory Authority and the Financial Conduct Authority. Every nation has similar regulatory bodies. And in some instances, the Bank of England is themselves a regulator. You have to ask, who guards the guards themselves in that context? Who regulates the regulators? So you're going to have a situation where you have something that can't do tech, a central bank, also trying to regulate itself, which it won't do properly, to produce a product that no one wants or uses. So, we just got to keep on making these points.
Thank you, Freddie. Roger, there are many countries that have a very authoritarian environment and space on the continent, pretty similar to China, if not worse. And we are seeing a rise of surveillance technology on the continent. Many more governments investing in spywares to be able to spy on citizens and even on facial recognition devices. And now the next goal is to scale that to financial surveillance because they want to know how money is moving, who is accessing money and how much. While we have learned a lot from you about how the Chinese government has been, to some extent, exploiting surveillance technology to be able to maintain control, what have you actually learned from the citizens of China in bypassing that and using Bitcoin despite the ban that was placed on it for some years?
Yeah, I think it's a really, it shows that when there is a will, there is a way. That, you know, for me, I always put it in terms of cybersecurity terms. There's like this term called red team, which is basically like an adversary or an enemy that's like trying to mess with your system. And to me, China is a really good red team. They are very sophisticated about the way they block certain technologies. For even talking outside Bitcoin, they have found technical solutions for people using Tor and restricting Tor from people. You know, they have found different ways to really manage different protocols that you might not otherwise think of. Even stuff like Matrix and other kind of freedom tech tools. I think the thing that I've learned the most is like the most important thing is to allow individuals to find community and education, even within that. And the community piece, I almost see that as a global community. And that's what I find really cool about something like Nostr, by the way, is that we're all having these conversations. And you can almost see local versions of this everywhere. You just have to choose to listen, to find those different places. And that community, it's almost like a broader community of people who are seeking freedom tech, who are seeking freedom from these restrictions that are being placed upon them. So with that, you know, comes the education piece. Once you find community, you can find education, and you can find lasting ways and lasting solutions so that people can learn and spread word about how to get past these bans.
Thank you very much, Roger. I think we note that community and education is the way forward. So on this note, we are going to close this fireside chat, and I would like to thank you both so much for your intellectual generosity and for sharing your knowledge with us today. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause for them. I'd like to invite the next Fireside Chat panelists to come forward. And I'm going to do some roll calls while they are making their way forward. We'll be talking about lightening the future of payments with Bitcoin's Layer 2 solutions. And to moderate that segment would be Leon Johnson, the head of operations for Fedi. Where is he? Give him a round of applause. So while he's waiting for other panelists to come forward, are there anybody here from Ivory Coast? Ivory Coast, are you in the house? Thank you for representing. Anybody here from Benin Republic? Scream now, represent yourself. Thank you so much. Uganda, is Uganda in the house? My Ugandan people. You should be able to scream louder. Liberia, are you here? Liberia is not at this conference. One Liberia, scream my sister, let us hear you. Give her a round of applause. And I met someone earlier from Burkina Faso. Is Burkina Faso here? Burkina Faso, one person, give him a round of applause. My Cameroonian people, where are you? Yeah, you are here. Where is the other? He can come and then he would.
Okay.
Yeah, just tell them to come.
Bernard, Stephen, if you come to the stage. Thank you.
He will
Can we give them a round of applause, please?
Tanzanians, are you here? Tanzanians, thank you so much. My Ghanaian people, Charlie. Charlie, did you reach Shito to this conference? All right, my Nigerian people, you win, right? Where are you, Nigerians? Thank you for representing. Of course, Kenyans, this is your country. Where are my Kenyan people? Thank you so much. You have the floor.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, Nairobi. So this is my third time here at the Africa Bitcoin Conference. So before we get started, I just want to say thank you to Farida and the whole organizing team for putting on this incredible event. It's been really, really good. I've been to 2 others, and I'd say it just keeps getting better each year. So thank you. All right, so we'll briefly start with some introductions. So my name is Leon. I work at Fedi. I'm the head of operations there. And today we'll be talking about the Lightning Network and how it's used here in Africa. So I'll hand over to my panelists, and if they just briefly introduce who they are and what they work on.
Hi, my name is Steven Roos. I'm a Bitcoin developer for over 10 years. I used to work at Blockstream on the Liquid project, and I'm currently at a company named Second, and we're building the ARC protocol.
Awesome, thank you.
Mic check. Okay. My name is Bernard Para, founder and CEO of BitNub. I guess you know.
Yeah, we a lot of people know who you are. All right, so maybe if we start with you, Bernard, first of all. So we're going to talk about the Lightning Network, but let's not assume that everyone knows what that is. Can you just briefly describe what is the Lightning Network and how is that different from Bitcoin?
Oh, so the way I try to describe it now to a non-technical audience is I call mobile money things like M-Pesa, version 1 of the Lightning Network, right? And then our banks are what the layer 1 of Bitcoin. So when you think about Bitcoin, what you do on-chain with your regular Bitcoin addresses, think about it like the banks, the way our banks maybe move money. It's a bit slower, but then M-Pesa it's cheaper, faster than the banks. So, like that.
That was a good explanation. Thank you for that.
Hope it's easy.
And just for a bit of context, you're working, Stephen, on ARC. Can you just briefly describe what that is and how that relates to the Lightning Network?
Briefly, so ARC is a Bitcoin second layer protocol, basically. So it's a totally different approach to doing a second layer protocol. It's definitely not a competitor with Lightning. We definitely embrace Lightning. ARC is compatible with Lightning. You can pay Lightning invoices through ARC. ARC, I'm not going to go into the technical details, but it has different trade-offs, so it might work for different types of users. We think ARC works better for retail users, while Lightning might work better for merchants and heavy users. The focus of ARC is trying to solve some of the costs that the Lightning Network has to be part of the Lightning Network. Lightning Network is very cheap and very efficient once you are set up inside the network, and payments are almost instant and free. But being part of the Lightning Network, entering the Lightning Network has some kind of maintenance costs and just also actual costs. And with ARC, those costs are way lower. So being part and partaking into the Lightning Network through ARC is going to be easier for those users. And yeah, that's what we're focusing on.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So both of you guys are entrepreneurs. So what excites you the most about the Lightning Network's potential? And in particular here in Africa as well?
I mean, it makes Bitcoin payments work, right? I mean, we've gone a long way. We've had payments that took 10 minutes, sometimes 30, 60 minutes, sometimes 3 days. Yeah. I have paid fees from $0 ranging all the way up to $30, $40. Yeah. So yeah, Bitcoin base layer just doesn't work for payments. So the exciting part about both Lightning and ARC is that we try to make payments work. I think that serves not just Africa. I think that serves the whole world.
Right.
Yeah, I think the most exciting for me is the interoperability, part of it. The fact that it's an open network. If you look at countries like, even here in Kenya, Nigeria, Brazil, they have PIX. You go to India, they have UPI. So things like instant payments are already a thing in so many countries. But then the problem has always been that how do you replicate that on a global scale? With the internet, we already have that on a global scale. If I send an email from here, it goes to, anyone, anywhere in the world, can just open their email address and have it. But that's not there for money, right? And it's a cyber world right now where the internet is still, young in a way, right? It's not even up to a century. So there's still so much to go. There's so much value to be unlocked. So I think it's thinking about it, what would the world look like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? It's just going to keep growing at an exponential basis. So we need money that works on it, payments that work on the internet natively, and Lightning it's just that thing that works, and luckily we have it, working today. So it's about how do we keep on, building on it.
Most definitely. Totally agree with you. So can you guys give some examples of how the Lightning Network is being used effectively, like here, right now in Africa, but also worldwide?
Okay, so we did the first Lightning Network integration on the continent. I think that was sometime in 2021. And, one of the things that pushed me to, sort of build that integration was just the on-chain fees. Right, the on-chain fees. I remember playing with Lightning, the alpha or something in 2018 or so. I think Alex Bosworth has this year also dog on testnet and stuff. I was really looking forward to it. And since then, we've pretty much done a lot of integrations to bank accounts. So every bank account in Nigeria, for example, is Lightning compatible today, right? Because of the kind of integrations that we've done. Same thing in your mobile money in Ghana, M-Pesa here in Kenya, and whatnot. And people use other products. So if you use the Strike app, for example, and maybe you're sending money to maybe Kenya, something, there, it's over the Lightning Network, right? Both sender and recipients, don't touch Bitcoin at all, and everything just happens, in milliseconds. So that's a real life use case. Before, there was nothing like this. An interesting example as well is, there has never been a way, I've never seen a way where you can send, say, just $5 from an African country to Australia, for example, a faraway continent. I can do right here, $1 to Australia via Lightning. So those are things that were never possible before and are possible today.
And how does it compare to like other solutions in terms of like cost as well? Because I know it's very quick, but is it a lot cheaper as well?
I think so. It's a lot cheaper. It's a lot cheaper. And just to educate the audience on why it's cheaper, you have to understand why the current, way people do it is expensive. That's because they need to maintain multiple currency accounts in a lot of countries, have a lot of staff, employees to take care of, have a lot of costs, taxes in all of those countries. With Lightning, you pretty much don't have to, because somebody is taking care of all of that. Settlement is instant. Typically, companies do what you call maybe ET+1 or ET+2 settlements across different currencies, which incur costs, and naturally they pass those costs down to us, the customers. But with Lightning, with a fraction of employees of remittance companies, we're able to do similar volumes. Just because we don't have that overhead. So you pass down the cost savings to customers.
Love that, thank you. And Stephen, anything to add?
I've not much to add there. I think it's been great to see that Lightning has effectively become the standard way to pay in Bitcoin, right? I almost never make any on-chain payments anymore, only to get money into my Lightning wallet and out of my Lightning wallet. So yeah, Lightning has been the bridge between all these national payments infrastructure systems. But Lightning is also the default way that I would pay anyone at a conference, any of my friends, any of the services that I sometimes buy online using Bitcoin. You just always use Bitcoin, Lightning nowadays. So yeah, I think we've come a long way. Lightning has come a long way. It's been a difficult road, but it's there and it works, and it shows that payments are there. There's a lot of roadblocks. A lot of services in many countries are still custodial. Lightning works very well for that model. Obviously, at Second, we believe that we want to also enable and make it easier for users to use Lightning in a non-custodial way.
Right.
Or Bitcoin payments in general in a non-custodial way. yeah, I think there's a lot of way to go still, but I think we've also come a long way, especially for Lightning.
Yeah, thank you for that. I agree totally. I think we have come a long way over the last 6-7 years since it started. But what are some of the challenges also with the Lightning Network? So, for example, scalability. Are there any challenges there?
Yeah, so like I said, Lightning works very well for those custodial solutions because these are entities, participants in the Lightning Network that have really high throughput and they have professional people maintaining their Lightning infrastructure. But for individual users, someone who just makes several payments per day, several per week, it can be costly and annoying to be part of the Lightning Network. Right. There's problems like opening channels, finding people to make channels with, paying the on-chain fees for the channels, especially if you want to receive before you have any Bitcoin. There's also the problem of inbound liquidity that is inherent to the Lightning Network. So if you enter the Lightning Network, you can't receive unless someone commits some money that is specifically dedicated to you receiving that money. So yeah, those are inherent growing problems, especially for retail users. You can't expect someone that doesn't know how Bitcoin works, that doesn't know like how computers or technology in general works to understand what it means to open a channel, what it means to have inbound liquidity and buy and purchase or rent liquidity. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of room to improve the user experience for non-custodial Lightning.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And Bernard, what are some of the challenges, do you think, with the Lightning Network?
So just like you said, I think having something like offline receive on Lightning on mobile phones will be a great option to have down the road. So that's something that we don't really have today. But generally, I think on the other side is about talent, right? The skill. There's the other side of it as well. You know, companies who want to integrate these or do this with that, how do they find, you know, developers who understand this? How do they find, you know, node operators who understand all of these things? So there's this barrier to entry when it comes to that. So how do we make it really easy for, you know, any hobby developer to build, you know, stuff on Lightning? Maybe I'm just a young developer. I'm trying to do something with maybe small robots, maybe IoT or something. Right. You know, how do you make it really easy for me to just build that small thing that, you know, but so I think those are on the talent side, on the people side, that's awareness, education, and just upskilling technical talent.
Yeah, that's a good insight. Thank you for that. So kind of just moving on a little bit. So Stephen, I know you're working on ARC, which implements both ARC and, or sorry, your company implements both ARC and the Lightning Network. Can you just describe what does ARC kind of provide that the Lightning Network perhaps doesn't?
Yeah, so it solves some of the problems I was mentioning earlier. So we're not implementing Lightning Network and ARC, we're just implementing ARC, but you can make Lightning payments through ARC, right? And the properties of ARC are such that we first of all, we don't have the inbound liquidity problem, right? So in ARC, you can just open an ARC wallet and immediately receive ARC funds. You don't need channels, you don't need on-chain Bitcoin. You can immediately receive off-chain ARC Bitcoin. You can also, from ARC, immediately pay Lightning invoices, right? So the same infrastructure can be used, the same Bolt 11, Bolt 12 invoices can be used. Your ARC service provider will basically be a trustless gateway so that you can pay anyone else who's in the broader Lightning Network. There's like, because ARC is not a peer-to-peer protocol, a lot of the complications from Lightning come because it's a peer-to-peer protocol. ARC is a client-server protocol. Okay. So every ARC user is going to be like a customer or a service user from a certain service provider, and that service provider will basically abstract away all the liquidity management and all the like heavy lifting of like being part of this protocol. And the user is basically a thin client that doesn't have to like worry about those things. So the user only has to come online when it actually wants to make a payment. It has to come online once in a while to like check up on certain things. But there's no like, oh, my channel is almost finished, I need to borrow more liquidity. All of that is like abstracted away by the service provider. So yeah, so I think the experience from ARC can be a lot better for like retail users who don't want to like maintain infrastructure. Also mobile users. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then last question really is, what do we need to do to kind of increase adoption of Lightning across the continent? I know you mentioned user experience, for example. Are there any other things that we need to do?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you describe, you know, how we frame adoption. So is it by more, you know, people using Lightning in a non-custodial manner? Is it by having more services integrating Lightning? You know, so it's different ways to think about it, right? If we're talking about people having actual utility as well with it without using it directly, that's another spectrum, right? So I think it's about problem solving. These things are just tools. Like these things are just tools. It's about trying it so fast to see what works and what doesn't work. So we've seen, for example, that at the moment, non-custodial Lightning is not really picking up on the continent, for example. Why? Because, I mean, people don't want to have to manage all of those things themselves, right? It's just the reality out there. And it's like when you take it to real life, people say, okay, people just want to hear the truth and whatnot, but we've not seen politicians who say the truth never win elections, right? So it's about what I was saying. But what I'm seeing, what we've seen with the data, I think we've been doing this for more than 3 years now. So we have a lot of data. We've seen all of the routes and whatnot. It's about people just want that utility. Right. One of the things that we didn't know that we learned after was, hey, you know what? What if I have a dollar balance and I can still pay a Lightning invoice and you do the conversion in the background and pay that invoice for me, right? When we worked with Strike to work on Send globally to do, you know, payments from the US to African countries without, those are just insights that we didn't know. It was by talking to customers and figuring out. And like they don't care about your freedom money. You know, like a lot of them don't care. Some of us do. We understand it, but then we have to meet them in the middle. So I think when it comes to adoption, it's just, hey, let's talk to more people. Let's run a lot of experiments, which is why it's important to have more developers, more entrepreneurs trying out these things, so we can know what works and what doesn't work. For all we know, we probably don't know what will bring, you know, the adoption right now until we try.
Some really good insights there.
Yeah, so if I can add, I think fiat money is not going anywhere, and I think what we're seeing in the last few years is that there's more and more of those things like Bitnob, Tendo, like BPI in Brazil, Strike in the US that are bridging the Bitcoin world with the fiat world.
Right.
Unfortunately, many of those are still KYC based and all those like downsides, but they actually work, right? Like when you talk with people about Bitcoin, questions that you always get is like, oh, but where can I use this money? Like, but once you have those bridges, the answer is everywhere. Like once you have a card that you can spend with your Bitcoin, once you can pay M-Pesa with your Bitcoin, you can use it everywhere. You can just hold Bitcoin. You don't have to be part of this economy. Like for example, when I was traveling in Brazil for the SatsConf conference, everyone pays with Pix, like you said, but a foreigner cannot have Pix.
Right.
So like I just couldn't pay. All I could do was like pay with my MasterCard, but then the fees for the merchants were a lot higher, so they're not very happy with that. But once you can have those bridges, I can just, as a foreigner, I can go anywhere and just use my Bitcoin and pay in the local payment system, just like with Tenda you can do here. So yeah, I think those are like critical infrastructure for like a first wave of like new users that can actually get value from Bitcoin. And then slowly but steadily, we can try to improve also the user experience for non-custodial Bitcoin. But I think non-custodial Bitcoin isn't for everyone. I think those like fiat bridges, especially in the next like decade still, it's going to be very important and very powerful.
Yeah, totally agree with you. So guys, that was a really good conversation. Some really interesting answers there. I hope the audience gained something today. Learned a little bit more about the Lightning Network and how it's used, particularly in Africa. So thank you to the panelists and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We just have 2 more to go. And I'm really challenged by the person that will be moderating the next Fireside chat, because he's a fellow journalist like me, but he's a journalist that is actually doing something wonderful with his journalism degree. You know why I'm doing MC? I know. Joe is actually doing source-based Bitcoin journalism, and he's doing amazing work. Please help me to welcome Joe Nakamoto, the CEO of Joe Nakamoto. Now I need to reassess my life, you know, so that maybe I can use this degree for something else as well. And he will be moderating this panel that will be talking about building products that people want. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him another round of applause as he welcomes the panelists forward.
Thank you. Can I take it from here? Can we all please give it up for our MC today? She's done such a fantastic job. It's been amazing.
Stop, guys, stop. You don't have to. Thank you.
Also, I'm unfortunately not the CEO of Joe Nakamoto, because if I'm the CEO, I'm also the intern, the cleaner, the software engineer, everything. One-man show. But it's my pleasure to be with you all this afternoon. Welcome. If you're coming in, please come and sit down. We're going to have a lot of fun with this panel today. It's all about UX, which of course stands for user ex-girlfriend or user ex-boyfriend. Just checking we're all listening. Okay, so of course it stands for user experience. We're going to do a quick survey, but firstly, please can we welcome Mo from the Bitcoin Design Foundation to the stage. Mo, come on down. We met on a dance floor in Oslo where she beat me at a dance-off. So I can promise you today that it's going to be a fantastic panel. So, before we get involved with the questions, I want to ask you all a quick question. You've got 4 answers to choose from. Your answers are terrible, bad, good, or excellent. Okay, they're your 4 answers to choose from. So how would you evaluate UX in Bitcoin, sort of generally speaking? Raise your hand if you think the UX in Bitcoin is terrible. Be honest. Lovely. Honest people. Good. Connor. Oh, cheeky. Okay. Raise your hand if you think it's bad. Okay, so for the live stream or whatever, that was sort of like a quarter of the room. I think a quarter of the room for the terrible. Raise your hand if you think UX in Bitcoin is good. Classic, the devs. And raise your hand finally if you think the UX in Bitcoin is excellent. Nobody thinks it's excellent. I thought some devs might raise their hand there. Okay, so this is for you, Mo, because you have made some amazing waves into Bitcoin UX. But one last thing. So I did a Twitter poll this morning. I'm sorry, Twitter's a dirty word, I know. I should have done on Nostr as well. But on Twitter, I asked about 300 people if they think that Bitcoin UX is good. And I think a lot of devs follow me because good and excellent were the winners. So yeah, but I think we have more builders, users, and actual people that understand Bitcoin is peer-to-peer cash in this room. Okay, so Mo, I think you have a microphone here. Can I ask you to introduce yourself and answer one very quick question? That quick question is, what is your favorite wallet or app or product or service in the Bitcoin space that has phenomenal UX? Do you want me to do an example? I'm Joe Nakamoto. I make silly Bitcoin videos all around the world, and my favorite UX right now is Tando, because it's just so simple. Yeah, give it up for Tando.
My name is Mo Gashni, and my favorite Bitcoin app at the moment is none of them. I remain Switzerland on this topic because I'm working in the ecosystem and I've seen the good and I've seen the bad. So for me, there is not one that I could say, this is the holy God and the holy grail of all of the applications.
Really? There's nothing you point to and say, we need to... Did you point to something in the fiat world or maybe the trigger warning crypto world?
I would say that there are a lot of applications that have a little bit of something that we can all learn from, and that's how I approach it.
You should go into politics. Very good at hiding the real truth there. We're going to get it out of you today, Mo. Okay, so the idea of this conversation is so that the audience can go away with some really useful takeaways, but also wants to learn more about your experience, particularly with UX and Bitcoin in Africa, because I think there's a lot that the West does wrong, particularly when it comes to Africa. But firstly, we're going to have to answer some sort of maybe universal truths or some things that people in the audience might know already, but just how important is UX? Like how important, or to what extent is the role of UX actually important for building good products and services?
I'm going to use an analogy, and I'm not going to use any tech talk. Developers, I love you all who are here. You're doing a great job building the foundation for our ecosystem. The three devs sitting there looking at each other and smiling, much love for you. I would like you to imagine that as a developer, you are building a house. And the UX design is the architectural design of the house, as well as the furniture in the house. Now, what I see a lot of in the space are a lot of applications being built. There are a lot of houses being built, many houses, and there are so many passionate people who want to build these houses. But imagine if you build a house that is 2 bedrooms, and you bring a family of 4, a husband and wife with 2 kids, and you introduce them to the house, and you say, look at this beautiful house I built, why don't you move in? They're going to say no, because it's not suitable and it doesn't have enough rooms for their children to live in. So we will build empty houses that are not suitable for the people we are building in. So if you ask me what is UX, I just use one word. I say that it is the humans that we are building for and their stories. It's as simple as that.
It's a great way to visualize it. I like the way you think there. I mean, you did a fantastic talk on this in Oslo, actually, and explaining UX in metaphors and visuals that help visual learners like myself and others. Because a lot of the devs, you're right, it's almost like they're speaking a different language sometimes and forget just how important it is for those people that are moving into those houses. So then also share that experience. The onus is also on us as users to relay that information. For example, the foundations on this house are shaky, or I don't like where the bedroom is, or whatever it may be. But I've just had some breaking news through my fake earpiece. Apparently, there's been a real announcement today. Is that so, Mo?
There is some breaking news. The first ever Bitcoin UX bootcamp has been held right here. It was held 2 days prior to the conference. Thank you to the support of the Human Rights Foundation in valuing the importance of UX in the ecosystem. The students from the bootcamp, please stand up. I want you guys to shine. Woo. Ten African people, 4 women and 6 males from the African continent who we brought here to educate them on how to build applications for real humans. I'll say one thing, it is called the UX Design Bootcamp. There was no design. They've been going deep into the problem space and understanding the problems of these wallets. We've been doing a UX analysis of Tando, Bitsaco, Fedi, students please help me here, I'm very bad with remembering, BitNob, and Bitsaco. So we've done UX analysis of all, and what's been happening here at this conference is they've been grabbing people and doing usability testing with people here at the conference. I'm going to shill, because that's me, tomorrow at 12:45 in the gridless room, there will be a presentation by these students on their experience and the data that they've gathered on these Bitcoin wallets. Please come and help us celebrate them and allow them to shine.
Awesome. Fantastic. There was another piece of news though, right? Can you share it publicly? Is this the first time it's being shared?
You guys are the first to hear this, aside from the very few people who are actually working on it. We're launching the next one, which is going to be in Brazil. And as of tomorrow, we're going to be accepting applications for the first ever Bitcoin UX bootcamp in Brazil. We want Brazilian UX designers developing UX solutions for Brazilians. We want Africans developing UX solutions for Africans.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing. So, yeah, it's sponsored by the HRF, no? Is that the...
Also by the HRF.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, you mentioned there that we need to have tools built by the people then using the tools, as opposed to what it seems to be in large parts of the world, which is people in Silicon Valley will build tools that we then use in the respective corners of our world. When we talk about Kenya and good UX and solutions that are used every day by millions of people, it's very hard not to think of M-Pesa, right? Another sort of specific country-specific solution to a very specific problem. Is there anything that the Bitcoin space can learn with regards to UX with how M-Pesa became so successful? Like, I'm sure you've seen, or maybe there's an equivalent mobile money solution in South Africa where you're from. You know, Machankura is prevalent there, and the star hash, I can't remember the number. Is it 833? It's 833, isn't it? But you know, those sort of mobile, dumb phone-centric solutions, what can the Bitcoin space learn about these sort of native solutions, and how can we sort of use those learnings to make better solutions?
I would say speak to the people. I would be very curious to know why people are using M-Pesa. So I would suggest a research study, an on-the-ground research study. Maybe one of the students would like to do that, as to why M-Pesa has been psychologically accepted, because there should be a number of reasons. And I think at this stage, without doing any research, we can only hypothesize on what those reasons are.
Okay, psychologically accepted. What do you mean? Do we not just use apps because they're good and they work?
No, trust has been such. Having been a researcher in this space over the last few years, I've come to realize that trust in using these applications is one of the biggest psychological barriers to people using this technology or this app. So there has to be some psychological reasons as to why M-Pesa is being used.
Okay, and have you used Tando yet?
I have used Tando, but the specialists on Tando are the Bitcoin students, the students of the Bitcoin UX Bootcamp.
Were they showing you how it works?
They were showing me how it works. I'm here to learn from them.
Okay. No, that's brilliant. Teachers teaching, being taught by the students. This is brilliant. But what were your sort of first impressions, your first thoughts?
To be honest, the user interface itself appears to be very simple. However, I think the truth, things can appear to be simple. However, when you actually start using something, you actually get to realize as to whether it's performing the action, the end action, which you would like it to perform. And I go back to the house analogy with no one here in this room, if you have a family of 4, you're not going to buy a house that is a 2-bedroom house, because it is not going to be suitable for you and your family. Another analogy is the food you eat, right? I really have been an evangelist in the ecosystem, telling everyone that we need to speak to the humans that we're building these applications for. We need their stories. And so if someone just hands a plate of food to you and says, eat this every day for 5 days, that's kind of what we're doing with the Bitcoin applications that we're building. We're handing it to people and we're saying, eat this and use this for 5 days, but we're not asking them, what would you like to eat? It's a very simple question that could lead to a very simple answer, which could lead us to building more applications which are focused on stories, not on our own hypothesis.
Awesome. Let's drill a little bit deeper on that idea of these sort of misconceptions or mistakes when it comes to building these solutions. So what's a design mistake you've seen in Bitcoin tools that, for example, just doesn't work for people here in Africa?
I'm going to use another analogy. I love analogies. Excuse me. So imagine that you've arrived at a hotel, and it's a really beautiful hotel. So the application interface itself is really well designed. The hotel is actually the Bitcoin application. Let's just use a wallet, for example. You arrive at the hotel, and it's very beautiful aesthetically. And you're taking the lift up to the hotel. You can't wait to get to your room. But halfway up, as the elevator is going up, it stops just in the middle of between 2 floors. And you see this error message. And the error message reads 53Z02I. Okay. That is a real example of what our users are experiencing. We're bringing them into the beautiful hotel. They're taking the elevator up. They're in the elevator, and they're seeing error message 51302. And they don't know what that means. So they're standing there and asking themselves, what do I do now? Error messages is a thing. It is a real thing. If we're asking people to trust us to put their monetary wealth onto these applications, then if we get them stuck in the elevator as they're going up, then how can they trust the experience that they're going to have in the hotel room? They're already stressed by the time before they even get to the hotel room.
Exactly. Rubbish holiday, rubbish hotel, 0 stars in the App Store or Play Store. Who here has received a random weird error message that you can't decode or can't understand? Well, I guess a lot of people are asleep as well. Sorry if you're asleep. But yeah, I think it's a really common issue, and I'm smiling along here because I've seen that several times, particularly on new Bitcoin apps. But yeah, is that one of those things that immediately after that point, you're a bit like, well, what am I doing here? I should check out of this hotel. Okay, I know we've got to be quite quick with this panel, so I'm going to change gears again. If you were designing a Bitcoin app for a farmer in Kenya, what is the first thing you would focus on?
I would go right to the farmer himself. I would sit across the table from him, and I would ask him, what do you need to achieve on a daily basis? And I would get all of the answers from him. But I'm not interested in beautiful, picture-perfect answers. I'm interested in problems. Because the more problems that I can uncover through my conversation with him, the more suitable the solution is going to be to what I'm then going to build for him. I'm going to look, every person, people use applications because they solve problems in their lives. Think of all the applications that you guys use. You don't use something if it doesn't actually solve a real, genuine problem. So I want to go very deep into the problem space, and I want to understand the jobs that he expects the application to perform.
But what if he doesn't know? What if he's like, you know, not switched on to because a lot of people, we do a lot of things repetitively. I know I do it in my own life, and I expect sometimes a different result. And that's kind of part of the human condition, right? We are very flawed people. We only realize the solution when it's presented to us. So can a research-driven approach really solve all of our problems? Or sometimes do we need to tee things up and experiment a bit?
There's a quote from Michael Ford which says, if I asked the people what they wanted, they wouldn't have said they wanted a car. Right?
They wanted a faster horse.
They wanted a faster horse. So we need more stories. We need more on-the-ground stories. We need to be connecting to the people, and we need to not be hypothesizing about what we think people need. And I'm going to use a very brutal analogy right now, and please forgive me. I've met many Bitcoin wallet developers, and when I speak to them, I ask them one simple question. I say, who are you building this wallet for? And their answer to me is, I'm building it for myself. And so my next question then is, how many Bitcoin wallet developers are there in the world? I don't know. I'm going to say 500. So my next question is, are you then building a wallet for 500 people? And that is the reality of what is actually happening right now. We are hypothesizing on who we're building for.
It's like the Bitcoin podcasters all podcasting to themselves, and the Bitcoin wallet developers all wallet developing for themselves as well. We are kind of stuck in that world sometimes. It's good to be brought out of it. Really good to be brought out of it.
And developers, once again, I love you guys, and I know you're so passionate about your craft. But, you know, we are here to help you and support you and to get you to bring more users onto your applications by understanding them.
Absolutely. And I'm just being cheeky for the record. I love using Bitcoin. Continue to use it every day. Okay, coming up to our last couple of questions. If there's one thing you wish developers or designers understood about users in Africa, what would it be?
I read through all the questions, but I totally missed this one.
I did my research, did my prep.
I'm going to say it again, and I'm probably sounding like a broken record. Speak to the people you're building for. Don't go sit solo in your room and build that thing because you think it's so cool. I get your passion and I get your philosophical drive, but go out into the village and speak to the farmer. And we now have these UX designers who are being trained here on the ground. My vision is a UX designer and a UX researcher on every main continent, working with the developers on the ground, conducting on-the-ground research, feeding the research into a central database, which is then accessible for the whole ecosystem. When builders are building, they access the database, and then they know what's going on the ground. So we're not hypothesizing anymore as to who we're building for.
Awesome, awesome. It ties into what Femi was started the day off this morning. You know, we need more Africans telling African stories, more narratives, more research-driven analysis, and then we'll have better solutions, hopefully. Okay, I think we've got 1 minute left, and I have not really any idea, in which case I'm going to keep asking questions. So we were planning this panel earlier, and we talked a little about your vision for the space and where it's all going. So I guess this is my final question. Can it be my final question, pretty please? Okay, what's your vision? Mo, what's your vision?
My vision is that when people land on these interfaces, that they feel at home and they feel like this is being built for me. It's not being built, you know, by some random person who doesn't understand my needs. We need to make users feel empowered when they land on these applications that we're building. And if they're not feeling empowered, then we're doing something wrong.
Awesome. Fantastic note to finish on. A massive thank you to you guys for listening in. Huge thank you to Farida for putting on the conference and to Afro Bitcoin. Thank you so much, Mo. This has been the panel on UX. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause, please. Wow. These are the brave ones. If you made it to the very last Fireside chat, please give yourself a round of applause. You guys have tried. Thank you so much for being so patient. I'm going to introduce the panelists for this one, the moderator, and then she will introduce the panelists. They will be talking about building circular economies with Bitcoin, empowering local communities. I'm so excited to have her back on the stage. She was here earlier to inspire us all the way from Kenya, guys. Please put your hands together for the founder of Bitcoin Dada, that is Marcel Lorraine.
Okay, so everybody took our time. Now I'm being told we only have 2 minutes to discuss this, which is quite difficult. So because of that, I'm just going to call out the panelists, Renata, Okin, and Naomi. All right. So I think the first question would be just introduce yourself and tell us what you do in the Bitcoin space and how long you've been in the space.
Oh, so my name is Naomi. I'm the founder of Bitcoin Babies. I've not been in the space for so long because I was introduced by my partner quite a while ago. I really never paid attention to it until I got pregnant and developed some issues, complications with pregnancy. So I had to stay home and really had a lot of time in my hands. And I really took this time to really study and understand Bitcoin. I remember at the same time I was going through my pregnancy. I'm a Kenyan, but I live in the Netherlands. So for me, the care I was getting in the Netherlands really stood out for me as compared to what we get here in Kenya. And I remember thinking to myself and saying to myself that every woman deserves this kind of care. Because the two came into my life at the same time. I thought of a way I could make this journey a little bit easier for women from the community I come from. Maybe just a small number of women each year. And also just use Bitcoin as a tool to empower them.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you to the partner, whoever you are.
Okay, the rusty voice. Hi everyone, my name is Renata. I'm head of marketing and community at FEDI. I've been at the ecosystem for around 5-6 years already, which is on Bitcoin age is like dog age, right? Like, so probably I'm like 7 years old on Bitcoin. And I discovered Bitcoin in a very different way. Like I wasn't like a super maxi Bitcoiner, and then I joined the ecosystem. I joined peer-to-peer platform, and my first month, I went to a travel with the CEO of the company to meet the people that were working on the using this platform. And for my surprise, I found a lot of people that were like really hustling, people that were like Uber drivers or, you know, different from the Westerns that were like just speculating around Bitcoin. And I found like a lot of entrepreneurs. Before even Bitrefill was there, they were like topping up funds around their regions by buying Bitcoin and sell in exchange of some service. So I decided that I want to teach people about this. So, and that's what I've been doing. So my focus are the masses, and that's why I love communities.
Hi, everybody, and thank you for having me on the panel. My name is Oken, and I'm the founder of EasySats. Basically, what we do is, it's in the name of the company. We try to make it easy for people to obtain their Bitcoin, to store their Bitcoin, and of course, to use their Bitcoin without having to come back to us. That's generally what we do. I got into Bitcoin more via use cases. I think I'll leave it at that because, you know, I can ramble for a bit. But yeah, for me, the whole thing was doing public displays of proof of work, so that when I go and I try to onboard people, they've already seen me do it. It's not something secret that I'm trying to do. And in that, it becomes a bit easier, because if you're willing to do it in public, then it's less likely that you're trying to scam somebody. So it was an easier conversation.
Okay. So my next question would be to Naomi. You said you wanted to create a better community for the women in your particular tribe or particular community. And I want to know, like, for you, in the context of Bitcoin, what is the most important thing or aspect when it comes to introducing Bitcoin into your community?
So I would like to correct you first. It's not tribe. I would say we have everyone, women from different tribes. For me, I wanted, for me, the most important thing, we would say, like, what Bitcoin offers. That is financial independence, which it's something great. I also remember, maybe I can give an example. At the start of our program, we had a woman who wanted to join our program, but the husband made it impossible for her to be part of our program because he was asking, why are you sending this woman money directly instead of sending it to me? So I can just discuss this question by examples, because we have also a woman like Gladys who never had an account. Now she has a bank account and she can be able to make transactions by herself. We also have...
when you say bank account, do you mean a Bitcoin account?
I mean a Bitcoin account, not a bank account. But for them, they see it as a bank account because they really never had a bank account. And something like a Bitcoin wallet really makes it possible for them. And I also have that woman. We were talking the other day and I asked her if she actually makes purchases in Bitcoin. And for her, she told us, like, okay, I don't buy anything in my house because my husband does not allow me to have any money or to hold anything. So I have this wallet. I can just hide some money for myself and the husband won't know. So I would say that those are the most important kind of examples I can give to answer your questions. So financial independence, inclusion for everyone.
Amazing. And I just want to maybe give a shout out to, I know your manager, Veronica, who is here with us. She has been doing most of the onboarding in Kenya. So Veronica, just wave. I believe you have been able to onboard merchants around your community. So they've been doing a great job. They have hospital, a clinic, I believe, a market that accepts Bitcoin, so which is a really amazing job. I'll go over to probably Okin. So Okin, you've been doing a lot of, you know, Bitcoin onboarding in your part of the world. And this is the reason why I wanted you to be part of this particular panel. Could you share to us why, or what do you understand by, you know, or define a circular economy in the context of Bitcoin?
Okay. Well, for me, when I speak about circular economies, It's about, so I'm from Namibia. We're a very small country. Population-wise, we're a large country, but we're like 3 million people. So for me, the thing was, how do we introduce Bitcoin without you going back into fiat? And that's, for me, a circular economy is people that are able to earn the Bitcoin, spend the Bitcoin, and the people that they spend it at can go spend it again, instead of them taking it and then selling it back out of the community. And the reasoning for me, personally, why I feel so strongly about circular economies is when I was growing up and, you know, we were hearing about money, people would always say, in a Jewish community, a dollar would move or touch like 1,000 hands before it moves out of the community. And in that, they were able to strengthen the purchasing power of their community. I see Bitcoin as a way that those of us that can't touch dollars, those of us that don't have that opportunity, now have an ability to make our own smaller communities, our villages, even our schools, able to prosper in a way that our purchasing power can grow over time, if we don't sell out the Bitcoin that we're able to receive, earn, or buy into the community. Because there is a limited amount, and, you know, as time moves on. So for me, circular economies are about purchasing power for those of that community to gain and not just lose in the way that we always have.
Amazing. And to Renata, you work with Freddie, and from my understanding, we work with communities a lot. And my question would be, how do you approach educating local communities about Bitcoin to ensure adoption and engagement? And it's a continuous cycle, not just a one-time thing.
So the first thing that we try to do is discover what is the problem that they have. So generally, the approach that people does is like, go, this is my wallet, use it. What do we try to understand? Like, are you unbanked? Are you debanked? You have no bank? Or do you have problems to access your financial system because you don't have ID? Or we're trying to figure out, like, in the practicality, what Bitcoin is serving these people. So after we discover that, so then we focus on that. And what we've been discovering for these 6 years is you don't even need to say the word Bitcoin. If they understand the value of this, they come back to you and ask you, what am I using here? So we go really focused on the practicality, on how Bitcoin can serve the person. After that, they get it. You don't need to teach them about it.
True. You don't really need to be technical about it. Amazing. And to Naomi, you've worked with a lot of merchants and businesses, I presume. And how do you onboard local merchants and businesses? Like, what is the model that you use? Do you have incentives? What do you actually do?
Okay, I think when it comes to onboarding merchants, the most important thing we did is we used a mom who was living in the area. So the merchants were already comfortable with her. And we also, the moms we are working with are from that area. That also means the merchants were also comfortable with her. I would say we have different kind of merchants, and you have merchants maybe who make sales today and they ready to restock tomorrow. So that merchant actually convincing them to accept Bitcoin is a bit difficult because sometimes they think it's a scam, or sometimes they think the fluctuations might be an issue for them. But for us, I would say for the merchants who are a bit uncomfortable and they were worried about losing their money, we told them what we will do for you. So this is not for all the merchants, but it's a few. So we gave them some kind of Kenyan shillings in advance, let's say 2,000 Kenyan shillings, because you need to restock tomorrow. So we give them that comfort. And these 2 Kenyan shillings is made when they reach that amount, they have made sales of 2,000, they can transfer it back to us. So we made that transition a bit easy for them. That has completely changed their view for Bitcoin. Now they just accept Bitcoin without us needing to give them fiat in advance.
You started by giving them some sort of collateral, some sort of security.
Yeah, some sort of security.
Very smart. Okay, and this is to Okin. I actually love what you do, Okin. You've been on media stations talking about about Bitcoin. Tell us about that. Tell us about the regulatory framework in Namibia, because that can be a challenge for the majority of people, and especially Bitcoin educators.
Okay, so I truly believe that as Bitcoiners, you shouldn't hide from authoritative figures. They're still just people, and you need to engage them. If you don't engage them, they're going to make up their own minds. So what we did was, the guy that got me into Bitcoin becoming full, he's the person that actually got called, or he called up the central bank people and was like, I'm going to give you the Bitcoin standard, read it. He called up, the Minister of Finance, and he gave him the Bitcoin standard to read. But then what this resulted in was they were like, okay, come to us and speak with us. Like anybody from the industry, we'll do an open day at the central bank, and then you guys can come through, and we'll tell you what we want to do regulation-wise, and you tell us why or why not. So I attended a lot of those sessions, and while moving through them, we realized that you can actually have a full-on conversation with these authoritative figures. The result of this was the Virtual Assets Act of Namibia that came out the 31st of July. Yeah, anyway, end of July last year, was written alongside Bitcoiners. So the way, there's no capital gains tax within the act that's already been passed by Parliament. In Namibia, there's absolutely zero capital gains tax. There's no tax on your Bitcoin mining. And then almost everybody here that has a Bitcoin company or something like that, you would, unless you're selling Bitcoin directly or holding custody of people's funds, you would fall under what is called ancillary services. So you're more like a support service for the people. So the Namibian Virtual Assets Act is literally, in my opinion, from the ones that I've read across the continent, we have the best legislation currently because it doesn't hinder Bitcoiners, but it does hinder exchanges, which is another problem in itself, because how do you get, but we do have on and off ramps. So for me, yeah, the law itself, because it was written alongside Bitcoiners that weren't trying to take advantage, it has allowed for things like, I can send you Bitcoin P2P at any amount, it's legal. If I want to sell you Bitcoin above 10,000 or above 5,000 Namibian dollars, then I got to get a license. But if I'm selling it under 5,000 Namibian dollars, like to the working people, the working class, then I don't need a license for that because it's seen as an ancillary service. So yeah, it was written in a really good way, in my opinion. But again, if they want to go back and now introduce capital gains tax, they need the entirety of Parliament to agree to that. And we just had an election and we have a new president, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. So yeah.
So Renata, and I know Naomi has talked about this, but I would like to get your view or how you've dealt with this before as well. So when you're trying to onboard a merchant or anybody else who is not, a hodler, investor, there's always the question of what about the volatility? I need to pay, like she said, I need to pay, I need to restock, I need to pay my staff. If I accept Bitcoin, then what happens next? Bitcoin could shoot, could also go down. So how do we deal with such questions?
So we use different styles depending on the community, right? So there are some communities they chose to have the stability pool, which is a tool that we have to make a decentralized way to freeze the Bitcoin. And we understand that, and we will say, that's what you need, that's what you get. There are other ones, they trying to do the similar model of the M-Pesa. So what they want to do is like they want to be also the broker, the little broker for someone else. So we start to teach them how to understand how to make profit as an agent for someone in the community. So then they see the benefit of Bitcoin volatility for them, in playing for themselves, right? So one of the things that you mentioned that I think it's key for agents, and sometimes we try to solve the chicken and egg situation that a lot of circular economies have, which is, I have the business, but nobody buys with Bitcoin. I have Bitcoin, but the business doesn't take. It's the idea of the earning, right? So when the person sees the value of like, oh, when I take the Bitcoin and I can make money out of this, they start to think, oh, there is a benefit there. So what we're trying to do, and we've been doing a lot of tests. If you guys want to know more about it, I can explain to you. But we've been trying to do tests about like what motivates someone to change the system that they have currently. So if I use cash Why I would change this? Maybe it's because I don't have that much money that is interesting for me to use M-Pesa, because M-Pesa would charge me 50%, because a very tiny amount of money. But I still want to access this. Or maybe because I don't have ID, I'm a refugee, so how I can access the financial system that I have. Or maybe because I want to make another alternative of money, right? So we try to test as much as we can locally with the community to see what makes sense for them.
Amazing. And as we wind this up, I just want to hear maybe any last words you had, any advice, especially to people who would want to start their own Bitcoin circular economies in their own community, because I feel as Bitcoiners that is really important, not just to hodl, preach about hodl, and expect the world to reach to the hyper-Bitcoinization level that we want. So we do need to start from somewhere, and we definitely need to start within our communities. So do you have any last words, advice, or insights that you might want to, share with the audience?
For me, I would say if you are looking into starting a community, it's best to start where you're from, like she said, because actually building that trust with the kind of community we are working with, because it's a bottom-up, people don't trust you when it comes to money. It's really difficult to earn that trust, but then you have to identify the community you're working with and come up with solutions that really work for that community.
Thank you, amazing.
So in our case, we don't build communities, right? We empower communities everywhere. And where we're seeing the communities that are more powerful, or they connect themselves with something that is very common. That's why the name community comes from, right? So I think it's important to make the community see together what actually makes them move forward, It can be, for example, a saving system, right? I've been seeing a lot of women, especially in Africa, getting together to save money, and then with the target, we wanted to be able to lend money to our sisters when they need to buy supplies, or when they have a goal to send the kids abroad to study. So it's much easier if you connect with the others with an objective in common than just the objective in common being Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the tool. It's a powerful tool. But just by liking Bitcoin might not be enough. And that's my opinion. That's what we're seeing around.
Yeah, I'd say, number one, have a conversation instead of trying to lecture to them. Find out what their pain points are. One of the easiest ones for me is point of sale machines, right? Nobody wants to pay that fee as the establishment. So start with their pain points, have a conversation. Don't even mention Bitcoin yet. Once you know what their pain point is, normally it's just I'll come spend Bitcoin here if you accept it. And that in itself, start, as my fellow panelists have been saying, start where you are, but go to the places you normally, if you go to a restaurant all the time or a bar, go there, because they know you there, and say, hey, I can come here, if you allow me to pay in Bitcoin, I'll show you the benefits, and I'll even come buy it back from you if you don't really want it, but allow me to show you why this is better than your current system. Instead of talking about decentralization and all that can come later. Just talk to them as human beings and have a conversation. That's what I would say.
Can I add something? Okay, I forgot to mention, maybe when you're looking also into starting communities, like the way you said, you really have to not only focus on the education part of it, but also let people have that practical use of Bitcoin. So for us, we give the moms, each mom $5 a week. And after maybe they have had lessons on how to use wallet, these $5, they go to the shopkeepers to be able to practically make transactions with this money, other than just educating them and onboarding maybe shops and then leaving it at that. And there are no people who are actually accepting this payment. So we really need to try and maybe invest money or push money in for that adoption to really get there.
Great. So just for the sake of audience, where can they find you should they want to know more about what you're doing?
Or you can find us on Twitter at BTC Babies. Also, we have our own website, btcbabies.com. You can also find us on Instagram at BTC Babies. And I would like to take this opportunity to announce that we have a meetup in our own circular economy on 12th. So if you'd like to see like how the moms are actually using Bitcoin in their daily lives, you can join us from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m.
In the case of Ferry, you can go to our website, ferry.xyz. We also have a Twitter account, an X account, which is ferry_BTC. And myself, I'm as Loba Stranger at X. And you can download the app and play with it. And if you have any communities, please feel free to reach out to us. We would love to see how we can create synergies together.
For me, it's EasySats on Twitter. I'm not going to say X, it's Twitter. So it's EasySats on Twitter, and it's EasySats on Instagram. And then EasySats on LinkedIn. And then for my personal one, it's the same everywhere, Oken_17. So I look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us.
Let's all remember Bitcoin is a tool. Use it to solve your challenges, not other people's challenges. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Another round of applause for them. I really cannot thank you guys enough for your patience today, staying till the very end. Just two quick announcements. These books, we're looking for the owner, and I will be leaving them with Paul. By the way, this is the same Paul that is owing me money. On your way out, make sure that you help me lock his shirt and remind him. Before I leave, I just want to make sure that the people from Namibia do not think that I forgot them. Are there Namibians here? Thank you. Are there Indians in the house? India represented? What about the USA? Is anybody here from the US? Shout now, scream now. China, the United Kingdom. Thank you. Any other European country represented here? Thank you so much. The DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. And Togo. What about Togo? Togo is where Farida is from. Is she the only one that came from Togo? Togolese people, where are you? All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a huge pleasure being your host today. My name is Adeola Fayon. Thank you so much. See you guys tomorrow.